You have 30 seconds, I said, my voice barely a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. Give me one good reason why I should open this door for you. Lara's face, usually set in a perfect mask of popular girl confidence, was a mess of tears and fear. Brayden, the football captain who walked the halls like he owned them, was pale and shaking, his eyes wide and pleading. Just 10 minutes ago, those eyes were filled with mockery. Just 10 minutes ago, his lips had formed the word monkey in a quiet, cutting imitation of my Jamaican accent. Now, they were trapped with me, with the monkey. It's funny how quickly things can change, isn't it? 1 minute, the world is exactly as you think it is, with its clear lines between the strong and the weak, the popular and the outcast. The next, a sound from the gymnasium erases all of it, and the only thing that matters is who knows the way out. I guess you could call it karma, or maybe it's just the universe showing you who people really are when they have nothing left. I hope you're all doing okay out there, wherever you're watching this from. I hope the weather is calm and your biggest worry is what to have for dinner. My name is Kezia, and this is the story of how I went from being the punchline to their cruel jokes to being their only hope of survival. This is the story of the day I held their lives in my hands and had to decide if they were worth saving. But let me start from the beginning so you can understand. 6 months before the gunshots, I was just a girl trying to be invisible. I was 16, and my family had moved from Kingston to this small American town for my dad's job. It was supposed to be a great opportunity, a better life. All I wanted was to get through my last year of high school without any trouble. I just wanted to graduate and go to college. I thought if I was quiet, if I got good grades, if I didn't draw attention to myself, I'd be fine. I believed that people were mostly good, and that if you were kind to them, they would be kind back. I thought that fitting in was just a matter of finding the right things to say, or maybe not saying anything at all. I was wrong. From the first day at Northgate High, I was different. It wasn't just my dark brown skin, darker than anyone else's in most of my classes. It was my accent, the way I spoke, the rhythm of my words that I had grown up with. To them, it was a novelty, something to be mimicked and laughed at when they thought I couldn't hear. Brayden and Lara were the king and queen of the school. Brayden was the kind of guy who never seemed to have a moment of self-doubt. He was tall, athletic, and everyone, including the teachers, seemed to orbit around him. Lara was his perfect match, a cheerleader with a smile that could turn sweet or sour in a second. They had a tight group of friends, and together, they ruled the hallways. I tried to be nice at first. I remember in English class, we were talking about our favorite books. I mentioned a Jamaican author my grandmother loved. Lara just looked at me with a blank stare and then turned to whisper something to her friend, who giggled. It was a small thing, but it was the beginning. After that, I learned to keep my stories and my culture to myself. My flaw, I see now, was that I thought their acceptance was something I could earn. I thought if I just endured their little jokes, their whispers, their imitations of my accent, they would eventually get bored and leave me alone. I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want to be the angry black girl. That's what I was afraid of becoming. In every movie, that's the character who gets written off, the one nobody listens to. She's too loud, too emotional. I thought silence was my armor. If I never raised my voice, if I never complained, then they couldn't label me. They would just have to see me for who I was, a girl who wanted to read her books and get an A in calculus. That armor started to crack about 3 weeks before the shooting. It happened in Mr. Davies' English class. He was one of those teachers who really believed he could change the world with a well-chosen reading list. He had kind eyes and a habit of saying things like, "Let's unpack that," and "Dialogue is the key." He thought that if he just put the right people together, they would magically find common ground. So, of course, he assigned a group project on The Tempest. And of course, he put me in a group with Brayden and Lara. I remember the moment he read our names out. My stomach just dropped. Lara let out a little sigh, loud enough for everyone to hear, and Brayden just stared straight ahead, his jaw tight. Mr. Davies gave us a hopeful smile, completely oblivious. "I think you three will create something truly special," he said. The first meeting was a disaster. We were supposed to meet in the library after school. I was there on time. Lara showed up 10 minutes late, scrolling on her phone. Brayden arrived 20 minutes late, still in his football practice gear, smelling like sweat and grass. "All right, let's get this over with," he said, dropping his heavy bag on the table. He wanted to split up the work so we didn't have to talk to each other. He'd do the summary, Lara would make the presentation slides look pretty, and I could do all the nerdy analysis stuff. That's how he put it. I just nodded. It was easier than arguing. It fit my plan of being invisible. But something inside me, a little voice that sounded a lot like my grandmother, was furious. I had actually read the play twice. I had ideas. I spent that night doing all the nerdy analysis, connecting the themes of colonialism and power to the characters. The next day, I brought my notes to our library session. Brayden was already there, which was a surprise. He was staring at a page in the book, looking completely lost. Lara hadn't even shown up yet. "This part makes no sense," he muttered, more to himself than to me. I hesitated. My plan was to just hand him my notes and leave, but he looked genuinely frustrated. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look like he wasn't in complete control of everything. "Which part?" I asked, my voice quiet. He pointed to a speech by Caliban. "I don't get what he's so angry about. Prospero taught him how to speak and stuff, right? Shouldn't he be grateful?" And there it was, a moment, a choice. I could have just said, "Yeah, it's confusing," and walked away, but I couldn't. "He's not angry because he was taught their language," I explained, sitting down across from him. "He's angry because they taught him their language just so he could understand their commands. They took his home, and then they curse him for not being happy about it." I kept talking. I explained the power dynamic, how Caliban was seen as a savage, as something less than human, by the very people who had stolen his island. I wasn't preachy, I just laid it out, plain and simple. Brayden listened. He actually listened. He didn't interrupt or make a joke, he just nodded, his eyes on the book, a little line forming between his eyebrows. "Huh," he said when I was done. "I never thought of it like that." Just then, Lara walked in. "Sorry I'm late," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "What'd I miss?" "Kezia was just explaining the play," Brayden said, and he didn't say it with a smirk. He said it like a fact. That day, we actually worked together. We talked about the project. Lara, seeing that Brayden was taking it seriously, put her phone away and chimed in with ideas for the visuals. I felt a tiny, dangerous spark of hope. Maybe Mr. Davies was right. Maybe dialogue was the key. The vulnerability came a few days later. We were in the final stages of putting the presentation together, sitting at that same library table. We were actually laughing about something one of the characters said. It felt normal. Brayden leaned back in his chair. "My dad is going to kill me if I don't get an A on this. He says my GPA is slipping." "Tell me about it," Lara sighed. "My mom is already planning my sorority rush at college. She says every grade is one step closer to the right house." They were talking about pressure, about expectations. It was something I understood. Without thinking, I just said it. "My grandmother wants me to be a doctor. She says it's the most respectable thing a person can be." Brayden looked at me. "Your grandma in Jamaica?" I nodded. A warm feeling spread through my chest. The thought of my grandmother always made me feel safe. "Yeah, she's hilarious. She lives in this little house with a huge mango tree in the yard. And this one monkey, oh, she hates this monkey. It's always trying to steal her mangoes." I found myself smiling, telling them the story. I told them how my grandmother would stand on the porch and have a full-blown argument with this monkey, shouting at it in patois, her voice full of fire and laughter. I even did her voice, just for a second, imitating the way she'd say, "You little thief, those are my mangoes." They both laughed. It was a real laugh, not the mean kind I was used to hearing in the hallways. For a whole 10 minutes, we weren't the football captain, the cheerleader, and the quiet black girl. We were just 3 kids complaining about their families and a shared English project. I felt like I could finally breathe. I let my guard down completely. I thought I had made a connection. I thought they finally saw me. That was my mistake. The betrayal came the day before the presentation was due. I was walking past the locker rooms after school. I heard a burst of laughter from a group of Brayden's friends, and then I heard his voice. He was putting on an accent, a horrible, exaggerated cartoon version of my grandmother's voice. "Those are mangoes!" he yelled, and his friends roared with laughter. My blood ran cold. I stopped, hidden by the corner of the hallway. Lara was there too. "Oh my God, do it again," she squealed, her voice dripping with amusement. "Do the part about the little monkey." Brayden puffed out his chest and started hopping from one foot to the other, scratching his armpits in a grotesque pantomime. "Ooh, ooh, ah, ah, me want a mango," he grunted in that same fake accent. The group howled. They were practically crying with laughter. Every laugh was a physical blow. They weren't just making fun of my accent. They had taken a beautiful memory, a story about the woman I loved more than anyone, and they had twisted it into something ugly. They had turned my grandmother into a caricature and me into an animal. They had used my vulnerability as a weapon. They had waited until I opened up, until I showed them a piece of my heart, and then they had stomped on it with their friends watching. The trust I had foolishly offered them was just material for their next joke. I stood there behind the wall, my body shaking, my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. The angry black girl they were so afraid of, she was born in that moment. I finally understood. To them, I would never be a person. I was just a punchline. Silence wasn't armor. It was just a way of letting them win without a fight. And that was yesterday. So when the first gunshot echoed from the gym and the world outside the library dissolved into screams and panic, and Brayden and Lara turned to me with terror in their eyes, I didn't see 2 scared teenagers. I saw the faces of my tormentors. I heard the echo of their laughter, and the word monkey was hanging in the air between us, as real and as solid as the locked door at my back. Brayden's voice was ragged. "Kezia, please, just open the door." He wasn't talking about the main library door. He was looking at the small, unmarked door at the back of the nonfiction section, the one labeled maintenance. The one I knew led to the service corridors that snaked through the school like secret veins. It was my escape route, the one I had discovered months ago during a quiet lunch hour, my own private map of the building. "Why?" I asked again, my voice low and steady. I was surprised at how calm I sounded. Inside, my heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. "Why should I help you?" Another gunshot, this one much closer, cracked through the air. It sounded like it was right outside in the main hallway. Lara let out a choked sob and pressed herself against a bookshelf, her hands covering her mouth. The sound was followed by a scream, sharp and then abruptly cut off. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. That scream changed everything. It wasn't an abstract threat anymore. It wasn't a drill. It was real. And the person who screamed could have been anyone. It could have been the quiet girl who sat behind me in chemistry. It could have been the boy who always held the door open for me. My anger, as hot and real as it was, suddenly felt like a luxury. Holding their past actions against them right now felt like arguing about a spilled drink while the house was burning down. Survival was a colder, harder instinct, and it was taking over. Okay, I whispered. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Okay, but you listen to me. You do exactly what I say when I say it. You don't talk, you don't make a sound. You don't even breathe loud. You got it? Brayden nodded quickly, his eyes wide. Got it. Anything. Lara just stared at me, her face streaked with mascara. The look in her eyes wasn't gratitude. It was something else. A kind of stunned disbelief, as if she couldn't process the fact that her life was now in my hands. I turned to the maintenance door. The lock was simple, a standard key lock that the janitors used, but I knew from my exploring that it was often left unlocked. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. I took a deep breath, twisted it, and felt the latch click open. I pulled the door just enough to create a thin slice of darkness. A smell of dust and old pipes washed over us. Go, I hissed. Now. Lara scrambled through first, nearly tripping over her own feet. Brayden followed, pushing for gently ahead of her. I slipped in last, pulling the heavy door closed behind me. It shut with a soft, final thud, plunging us into almost total darkness. The only light came from a thin crack under the door. We were in a narrow concrete hallway. Pipes and wires ran along the ceiling and walls. It was cramped and cold. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth. Brayden fumbled for his phone, his thumb swiping across the screen to turn on the flashlight. The sudden beam of light made us all flinch. It illuminated our faces, pale and grimy in the tight space. "What is this place?" Lara whispered, her voice trembling. "A way out," I said. "Maybe. Now shut up." We started moving, me in the lead, Brayden's right bouncing behind me. The corridor was even narrower than I remembered. Our shoulders brushed against the rough concrete walls. Every few feet, another pipe would jut out, forcing us to duck or squeeze past. It was a maze, but I had walked parts of it before. I knew the general direction of the science wing, which was on the opposite side of the school, closer to the student parking lot. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I froze, my heart leaping into my throat. Brayden immediately shut off his light, plunging us back into darkness. We stood there, holding our breath, listening. There was nothing but the sound of our own frantic heartbeats. I carefully pulled my phone out. The screen lit up my face. It was a text from my dad. "Kez, are you okay? We heard. At the school. Police everywhere. Answer me." A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to lean against the wall. He was outside. My dad was outside. He was running toward the danger I was trying to escape. My grandmother's face flashed in my mind, her worried eyes, her voice on the phone telling me to be safe. It wasn't just about me anymore. I had to get out. I had to get out so my dad could stop running toward the guns. I had to get out for my grandmother so she wouldn't have to get that phone call. The stakes had just grown 1,000 times higher. My own life felt small and insignificant compared to the pain my family would feel. My determination hardened into something sharp and painful inside my chest. "We have to keep moving," I said, my voice tight. Brayden turned his light back on, keeping the beam pointed at the floor. We moved faster, our footsteps echoing softly in the enclosed space. We rounded a corner and saw something on the floor. It was a backpack, a plain black one, lying open. A notebook had spilled out of it. Brayden instinctively reached for it, but I grabbed his arm. "Don't touch it." But it was too late. His light had already fallen across the open page of the notebook. The handwriting was messy, angry. It was just a few sentences, scrawled over and over again. "They never see you. They just laugh. Make them see. Make them listen." Lara gasped. "I know that handwriting," she whispered. That's Leo's. Leo Jensen, a quiet, skinny kid who sat in the back of our history class. He barely ever spoke. He was always drawing in that notebook. People made fun of him, called him weird. Brayden's friends were the worst. I remember them knocking his books out of his hands just last week, laughing as he scrambled to pick them up. Brayden had been there. He hadn't joined in, but he hadn't stopped them either. he had just watched. The shooter wasn't a monster from the news. He was a kid we knew, a kid they had tormented, a kid who wanted to be seen. And a cold, sick feeling washed over me as I realized this wasn't random. He wasn't just shooting, he was hunting. And people like Brayden and Lara were exactly who he would be looking for. "We need to go," I said, my voice urgent. I pushed past them, my mind racing. This changed everything. We continued down the corridor, the silence between us now filled with a new kind of dread. The path ahead was blocked by a large metal grate that had fallen from the wall, probably years ago. It was too heavy for one person to move. "Help me," I grunted, trying to lift one end. Brayden was there in a second, his shoulder next to mine. "On 3, he said. 1, 2, 3. We lifted together, straining. The metal groaned as we slid it just far enough to the side for us to squeeze through. For a moment, we were pressed close together in the narrow gap, his arm against mine, his breath warm on my cheek. It was a strange, disorienting feeling. His apology from yesterday, the one he never gave, hung in the air. This was different. This was teamwork. It was survival. As we cleared the grate, a faint light filtered through a vent near the floor. It looked out into the B-wing hallway. I crouched down, peering through the dusty slots. The hallway was empty, littered with dropped books and bags. Then I saw a pair of feet, standing still near the water fountain. They were wearing dark combat boots, sturdy, black, with distinctive red laces. I recognized those boots. Leo always wore them. It felt like a punch to the gut. Seeing those boots made it real. Leo was out there. I pulled back from the vent, my heart pounding. We were close, too close. I looked at Brayden and Lara. Their faces were grim. The king and queen of Northgate High were gone. In their place were 2 terrified kids, looking at me, waiting for me to tell them what to do next. I pointed down the corridor. "The science wing storage closet should be just ahead," I whispered. "If we can get there, we can hide. We can figure out a plan." Brayden nodded, his jaw set. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine in the dim light. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. I didn't answer. I just turned and moved forward, deeper into the darkness. A strange alliance formed in the belly of the school, bound by fear and a debt I never asked for. We reached another door, this one with no label at all. I prayed it was the right one. My hand closed around the cold metal knob, and I slowly, silently, began to turn. The knob turned with a quiet, oily click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. I pushed the door open a few inches, peering into a darkness that was even more complete than the corridors. The air that drifted out was different. It didn't smell like damp concrete. It smelled sharp, like cleaning fluids, and something else, something metallic and faintly bitter. It was the science wing storage closet. I knew it. "In," I breathed, pushing the door wider, quick and quiet. We slipped inside one by one, a clumsy chain of shadows. I pulled the door shut behind us, and the darkness was absolute. It pressed against my eyes. I could hear Lara's ragged breathing and Brayden shifting his weight beside me. For a second, a single beautiful second, it felt like we had made it. We were off the map, hidden away where no one could find us. The feeling was so powerful, so full of relief, that my knees felt weak. Then, Brayden's phone light cut through the dark. "I told you to keep that off," I snapped in a harsh whisper. "We need to see," he whispered back, his voice defiant. "We can't just stand here in the dark." His light beam swept across the room. It wasn't a normal storage closet. Yes, there were shelves stacked with old textbooks and boxes of glassware, but in the center of the small, windowless room, there was a metal table, and spread across it was a huge, hand-drawn map of the school. My breath caught in my throat. It was a blueprint almost. Every hallway, every classroom, every exit was carefully detailed. But there were other markings. Red circles drawn around certain rooms, a red X over the gymnasium. a red line tracing a path from the gym down the main hall toward the library. Lara took a shaky step closer, her eyes wide. "What is this?" Her question was answered before I could speak. Next to the map, scrawled on a separate piece of paper, was a list of names. It was a short list, maybe 10 names total, but I didn't need to read all of them. I only needed to see the two at the top, Brayden Miller, Lara Peterson. Lara made a sound, a choked little whimper, and clapped her hand over her mouth. Brayden just stood there, frozen, the phone light trembling in his hand. The beam shook across the paper, making their names dance. This wasn't a storage closet. It was his. This was Leo's command center. We hadn't found a sanctuary. We had walked right into the heart of the storm. We were in the one place he was sure to come back to. A floorboard creaked in the service corridor outside. My blood turned to ice. Without thinking, I lunged forward and smacked Brayden's hand, knocking the phone to the floor. The light went out, and we were back in total darkness. I grabbed both of them by their arms, my fingers digging into their skin. "Hide," I hissed, my voice shaking with a terror so pure it burned. "Now!" I shoved them toward the back of the room where I'd seen a stack of large cardboard boxes. We scrambled behind them, pressing ourselves into the corner, our bodies crammed together in a tangle of limbs and panicked breaths. The space was impossibly small. Lara's head was pressed against my shoulder, and I could hear Brayden's heart hammering against my back. The door to the closet opened. A sliver of light from the corridor cut across the floor, stopping just short of our hiding place. A pair of black boots with red laces stepped into the room. Leo. He was here. He was just feet away. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he couldn't hear the frantic drumming of my own heart. I held my breath until my lungs burned. Lara was shaking uncontrollably beside me. I could feel her tremors running through my whole body. She was going to make a sound. She was going to get us killed. I reached out blindly, my hand finding her arm. I squeezed hard, a silent command. "Be still." Leo took another step into the room. He didn't turn on a light. He seemed to know his way in the dark. We heard him rustling around near the table, the sound of paper being shifted, the clink of metal. What was he doing? Getting more ammunition? Checking his list? Then he spoke, his voice a low, chilling mutter. Not to us, to himself. "The king and the queen," he whispered, and the sound was filled with a strange mix of anger and excitement. Think they can hide? But everyone has to pay. He wasn't just shooting, he was collecting debts. And Brayden and Lara were at the top of his list. The things they did, the whispers, the laughter, the casual cruelty that I had endured in silence, Leo had absorbed it all. But he wasn't staying silent. He was answering with bullets. A floorboard creaked in the service corridor outside. My blood turned to ice. Without thinking, I lunged forward and smacked Brayden's hand, knocking the phone to the floor. The light went out, and we were back in total darkness. I grabbed both of them by their arms, my fingers digging into their skin. "Hide," I hissed, my voice shaking with a terror so pure it burned. "Now!" I shoved them toward the back of the room where I'd seen a stack of large cardboard boxes. We scrambled behind them, pressing ourselves into the corner, our bodies crammed together in a tangle of limbs and panicked breaths. The space was impossibly small. Lara's head was pressed against my shoulder, and I could feel Brayden's heart hammering against my back. The door to the closet opened. A sliver of light from the corridor cut across the floor, stopping just short of our hiding place. A pair of black boots with red laces stepped into the room. Leo. He was here. He was just feet away. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he couldn't hear the frantic drumming of my own heart. I held my breath until my lungs burned. Lara was shaking uncontrollably beside me. I could feel her tremors running through my whole body. She was going to make a sound. She was going to get us killed. I reached out blindly, my hand finding her arm. I squeezed hard, a silent command. "Be still." Leo took another step into the room. He didn't turn on a light. He seemed to know his way in the dark. We heard him rustling around near the table, the sound of paper being shifted,
The clink of metal. What was he doing? Getting more ammunition? Checking his list? Then he spoke, his voice a low, chilling mutter. Not to us, to himself. "The king and the queen," he whispered, and the sound was filled with a strange mix of anger and excitement. Think they can hide? But everyone has to pay. He wasn't just shooting, he was collecting debts. And Brayden and Lara were at the top of his list. The things they did, the whispers, the laughter, the casual cruelty that I had endured in silence. Leo had absorbed it all, but he wasn't staying silent. He was answering with bullets.
A horrifying, twisted kind of justice was unfolding, and we were trapped in the middle of it. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy. Lara started to make a tiny hiccuping sound, trying to stifle a sob. It was quiet, but in that dead air, it sounded like a scream. Brayden shifted, his arm moving to clamp a hand over her mouth. "Don't," he mouthed, his breath hot against my ear. Leo froze. He must have heard the tiny noise, the slight rustle of our movement. The silence in the room changed. It was no longer empty. It was listening. I could feel his attention turning toward our corner, a predator sensing movement in the shadows. My entire body went rigid. This is it, I thought. This is where it ends. "Please," I begged, to whatever was out there, "please don't let him find us. Don't let my dad get that phone call." After what felt like a lifetime, Leo took a step back. He let out a quiet sigh, a sound of frustration. He must have decided it was just the building settling, or a rat in the walls. The sliver of light from the hallway widened as he opened the door again. Then he was gone. The door clicked shut, leaving us once more in suffocating darkness. We didn't move. No one dared to breathe. We waited, listening for his footsteps to fade down the corridor. 1 minute, 2, 5. Finally, Brayden let out a long, shuddering breath. He fumbled for his phone on the floor, the light blinking back on. In the sudden glare, Lara looked completely broken. Tears streamed silently down her face, her body still trembling. Brayden's face was ashen. He looked from the map on the table to Lara and then to me. The arrogance was gone. The easy confidence was gone. All that was left was raw, unfiltered fear. "He's hunting us," Brayden whispered, stating the obvious. The words still hung in the air with terrifying weight. "He's actually hunting us." Lara finally broke. "This is your fault," she sobbed, her voice a ragged whisper. She was looking at me. "You brought us here. This is his room. You led us right to him." The accusation hit me like a slap. My anger, which had been buried under layers of adrenaline and fear, came roaring back to life. My hands clenched into fists. After everything I had done, after putting myself at risk for them, this was the thanks I got? Blame? "My fault?" I whispered back, my voice dangerously low. "Are you serious right now? He's hunting you because of what you did, what you both did. Did you think he wouldn't remember you knocking his books over? Did you think he didn't hear you call him a freak?" I took a step toward her, forgetting to be quiet, forgetting everything but the rage. "He's out there with a gun because of people like you, people who think it's funny to break someone down piece by piece just to make yourselves feel bigger. So don't you dare put this on me." Tears streamed down Lara's face, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of terror and self-pity. "We were just joking around," she stammered. "He's not joking," I shot back. "Enough." Brayden's voice cut through the tension. It wasn't a yell, but it was sharp, commanding. We both turned to look at him. He was staring at the list of names, his expression something I had never seen before. It was a look of dawning horror, of realization. He looked at me, and his eyes were clear. The fear was still there, but something else was too. Respect, maybe even shame. "She's right, Lara," he said quietly. "She's right. This isn't her fault. She's the only reason we're not dead in that hallway." He paused, his gaze fixed on me. Keziah is the only one who can get us out of this." The air in the tiny room shifted again. He had chosen a side. He had defended me. He had said my name, not with mockery, but like it was the only thing that made sense. But his words didn't fix anything. They just made the situation heavier. We were trapped in the shooter's planning room. We knew we were his primary targets. And now my two tormentors were looking at me, not as the butt of their jokes, but as their leader, their only hope. The weight of their lives settled on my shoulders, a crushing, unwanted burden. "What now?" Brayden asked, his voice barely audible. I looked from his desperate face to Lara's tear-streaked one, then to the map on the table. The map that showed every escape route, but also every place he might be waiting. Staying here meant he would be back. Leaving meant walking into his hunting ground. There were no good choices left, only impossible ones. And I was the one who had to make the call. I stared at the map, at the red lines and circles drawn in Leo's angry hand. My mind, which had been a storm of fear and rage, suddenly went cold and clear. The map wasn't just a threat, it was a guide. It showed me where he was, but it also showed me where he wasn't. "The science wing," I said, my voice flat and quiet. It cut through the terrifying silence.
"He's marked the main hallway, the library, the cafeteria. He's moving in a pattern. But there are no marks on the new science labs. They're on the other side of the courtyard. If we can get across the courtyard, there's a service gate behind the chemistry building." Brayden leaned closer, his eyes tracing the path I was imagining. "Across the courtyard? In the open?" "It's our only shot," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "His plan is all about the main building. He doesn't expect anyone to go outside. We move from here, through the connecting hall, into Mr. Henderson's biology room. The windows in that room look out onto the courtyard. We wait for a clear moment, and we run for it." Lara shook her head, her whole body trembling. No, I can't go out there." "Then you can stay here," I said, my voice like ice. "You can wait for him to come back, because he will come back here. This is his base." That was enough. The thought of Leo returning was worse than the thought of running. She just nodded, her face pale, a silent, terrified agreement. Brayden looked at me. "Okay," he said, his voice firm. "Okay, we follow you." The journey from the storage closet to the biology lab felt like a lifetime. We moved through the service corridors again, every creak of a pipe, every distant, muffled bang making us freeze. My ears were straining, listening for the sound of those black boots. Brayden was right behind me, his hand hovering near my back, as if to steady me. Lara was behind him, her hand gripping the back of his shirt like a little kid. We were a strange, broken little chain moving through the guts of the school. The door to the biology lab was unlocked. We slipped inside, the familiar smell of disinfectant and preserved frogs filling my nose. I immediately went to the large windows that overlooked the central courtyard. The glass was streaked with rain that had started to fall. The courtyard was empty, a ghost town of picnic tables and abandoned backpacks. "We wait for the sound," I whispered, crouching below the window ledge. "When we hear him shooting on the other side of the school, it means he's busy. That's when we go." We huddled together on the floor, tucked between a lab station and the wall. The silence was thick. It was just the three of us, breathing in the quiet, waiting for the sound of death to be our signal. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Lara was curled into a ball, her face buried in her knees. Brayden sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. He was trying to comfort her, whispering things I couldn't hear. I watched them, a strange ache in my chest. He looked like the caring boyfriend, the strong protector. It was a side of him I'd never seen. For a moment, a stupid, foolish moment, I thought maybe this whole thing was changing him. He must have felt me watching. He looked over at me, his eyes meeting mine in the dim light. He gave me a small, tired nod, a nod of thanks, a nod of respect. I looked away, my heart doing a complicated twist. I didn't want his respect now. It felt too late. Then he turned back to Lara, and his whisper became a little clearer. I wasn't trying to listen, but in the dead silence, sounds carry. "It's going to be okay, Lara," he murmured, his voice soft, meant only for her. "Just hold it together a little longer." "I can't," she sobbed into her knees. "He's going to find us, and it's all your fault. You and your friends, you never left him alone. I told you to stop." "I know," Brayden whispered back, his voice tight with an emotion I couldn't place. "I know, but arguing about that now isn't going to help. We just have to stick to the plan." "What plan?" she whispered. "Trusting her?" The way she said her was like spitting out something rotten. My whole body went still. I focused on a crack in the floor tile, trying to make my breathing even. Brayden's reply came after a long pause. "Lara, listen to me. She's the only one who seems to know what she's doing, so we let her. We let her lead. We let her think she's in charge. We do whatever she says." My blood ran cold. Let her think she's in charge. The words echoed in the silent room, a poison seeping into the air. He continued, his voice low and urgent, a conspirator's whisper. "She gets us to that gate, and the second we're on the other side, we're gone. We run. We don't look back. It's the only way. She's just the key. That's all. Understand?" A sound like rushing water filled my ears. The room tilted. He hadn't changed. Nothing had changed. His defense of me in the closet, his look of respect, his quiet thank you, it was all an act, a performance to ensure his own survival. I wasn't their leader. I wasn't a person to them at all. I was a tool, an object, a key to be used and then thrown away once the door was open. They were still the king and queen, and I was still the monkey. Just a different kind now. A useful monkey. One that could fetch them their freedom. The betrayal was so sharp, so complete, it felt like a physical blow. It hurt more than their laughter in the hallway. It hurt more than the names they called me. Because for a few minutes, in the dark, in the face of death, I had let myself believe we were all just human. I had let myself believe they saw me as one too. I was such a fool. I squeezed my eyes shut, and my grandmother's face appeared in my mind. Her voice, not the cartoon version Brayden had created, but her real voice, strong and clear. "Never let them see you sweat, Keziah. Your strength is your own, not for them to borrow." My rage was a cold, hard stone in my stomach. It pushed out the fear. It pushed out the hurt. It left something else in its place, a chilling, terrible clarity. They wanted a key? Fine, I'd be their key, but they had no idea what door I was about to open. Just then, a rapid series of pops echoed from the far side of the school. Pop, 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 pop. It was our signal. Brayden's head snapped up. He looked at me, his face a perfect mask of worried trust. "Is that it? Is it time?" I met his gaze. I let him see the determination in my eyes. I let him see the leader he wanted me to think I was. I let him see the fool. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "It's time. Get ready to run." I pushed the heavy door open, a wave of cold, damp air hitting us. "Now," I ordered, my voice leaving no room for argument. "Don't run in a straight line. Zigzag. Go." Brayden and Lara didn't hesitate. They burst out into the rain, a clumsy explosion of motion. I was right behind them, my feet slapping against the wet concrete of the courtyard. The world was a blur of gray sky, green grass, and the dark brick of the buildings around us. Every window was a potential threat, every doorway a possible ambush. The service gate on the other side looked impossibly far away, a thin black line in the distance. We were halfway across, my lungs burning, the rain plastering my hair to my face. Brayden was surprisingly fast, his long legs eating up the ground. Lara was struggling to keep up, her stylish but impractical shoes slipping on the wet ground. For a second, a wild, stupid part of me thought we might actually make it. We were exposed, yes, but we were moving. We were doing something. Then a door to our left, leading from the main building's west wing, flew open. It wasn't Leo. It was a girl, someone I recognized from my math class. Her name was Chloe. She was clutching her arm, her face a mask of pain and confusion. She stumbled out into the courtyard, looking around wildly. "Help!" she cried out, her voice thin in the open air. Lara, seeing her, made a noise, a gasp of recognition and pity. Brayden slowed, his head turning toward the sound. It was a fatal mistake. The distraction, the momentary break in our desperate rhythm, was all it took. From another doorway, closer to the gym, Leo stepped out. He moved with a calm, deliberate purpose that was more terrifying than any frantic rush. He saw Chloe first. He raised the rifle to his shoulder as if he had all the time in the world. Chloe's eyes widened. She opened her mouth to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the sharp crack of the rifle. She crumpled to the ground in a heap, motionless. We all froze. The image burned itself into my mind. The sound of the shot echoed off the brick walls, a flat, final punctuation mark. "Get down!" I screamed, a raw, primal sound torn from my throat. I threw myself to the ground behind a low concrete retaining wall, scraping my hands and knees on the rough surface. Brayden and Lara were a second behind me, tumbling down into the wet grass, their breaths coming in ragged, panicked sobs. We were pinned. The wall was barely high enough to cover us if we stayed flat on our stomachs. The service gate was still 50 yards away, across a wide open stretch of lawn. Leo was standing by the doorway, scanning the courtyard, his head turning slowly. He hadn't seen where we'd gone. Not yet. Lara whimpered, digging her fingers into the mud. "Oh God, he killed Chloe. He just killed her." Brayden was staring at Chloe's body, his face white, his expression slack with shock. The football captain, the king of the school, looked like a little boy. I saw her this morning," he was whispered. "She was asking me about the homework for history." The casual, normal memory set against the horror in front of us seemed to break something in him. He started shaking his head, a violent, jerky motion. "This is because of me," he said, his voice cracking. "All of this. I saw them messing with him. I saw them every day. I never did anything." "Shut up," I hissed, pressing myself lower against the cold, wet ground. "He might hear you." "Maybe he should." Brayden's voice rose, hysteria creeping in. "Leo, it's me. It's Brayden. It's me you want, right? Are you crazy?" I grabbed his arm, my nails digging in. "He will shoot you. Do you understand? This isn't a game." But he wasn't listening to me. He was lost in his own guilt, his own terror. All the confidence had been stripped away, leaving only a raw, terrified nerve. He was a liability. He was going to get us all killed. My mind raced, cold and fast, fueled by pure adrenaline. The plan had failed. Running was suicide. Staying here was a death sentence. There were no good options, just a series of doors, all leading to disaster. My promise to my dad, my image of my grandmother, it was all slipping away, being washed out by the rain and the fear. Then I saw it. To my right, partly hidden by an overgrown bush, was a storm drain. The grate was thick iron, probably rusted shut, but next to it was a smaller square of metal set into the concrete. A maintenance access point for the sprinkler system, maybe? It was small, too small for Brayden, but maybe not too small for me. If I could get that open, it would lead down into the drainage pipes. It wasn't an escape, but it was a hiding place, a place he would never think to look, a place for one. The thought was ugly, a snake coiling in my gut, a place for one. My gaze flickered between the small metal plate and the two people huddled beside me. Brayden was still muttering to himself, trapped in a spiral of guilt. Lara was crying silently, her face buried in her arms. They were useless. Worse than useless. They were anchors, dragging me down with them. Brayden's whisper from the lab echoed in my head. "She's just the key. The second we're on the other side, we're gone."
They were planning on leaving me. They were using me. My anger, which had been a cold stone, now felt like a block of ice, freezing my heart, pushing out any trace of pity. Why should I die for them? Why should my dad have to identify my body because I tried to save the boy who called me a monkey and the girl who laughed? My grandmother's voice was in my head. Your strength is your own, not for them to borrow. I finally understood what she meant. My strength, my knowledge of this school's hidden places, my ability to stay calm under pressure, it belonged to me. It was for my survival, not theirs. They had made their choices day after day with their cruelty and their jokes. Leo was the consequence of their choices. I didn't have to be. The decision settled over me, cold and final. I had to save myself. Listen to me, I whispered, my voice hard. I'm going to create a diversion. When you see it, you run. Run for the gate. Don't stop for anything. Got it? Brayden looked at me, his eyes filled with a desperate, pathetic hope. A diversion? What are you going to do? Just be ready, I said, avoiding his eyes. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't look at the misplaced trust on his face. I began to crawl, slowly, silently, on my stomach through the wet grass, moving toward the bush and the metal plate. The movement was agonizingly slow. Every rustle of the grass sounded like a shout. Lara lifted her head, her teary eyes following me. "Where are you going?" she whispered. "Stay down," I commanded, not looking back. I reached the bush. My fingers, numb with cold, fumbled for the edge of the metal plate. It was heavy, set deep in the concrete. There was a small indentation for a handle filled with dirt and grime. I clawed at it, my short nails scraping against the metal. It wouldn't budge. Panic flared in my chest. This had to work. It was my only way. I dug harder, a sob of frustration catching in my throat. Finally, my fingers found a purchase. I pulled, using every bit of strength I had. The plate lifted with a low, grating screech. Across the courtyard, Leo's head snapped in our direction. He had heard it. There was no more time for stealth. I ripped the plate off, revealing a dark, narrow hole. I didn't hesitate. I swung my legs over the edge, my body dropping into the tight, black space. Just as my head dipped below ground level, another shot cracked through the air. It was followed by a sharp, agonized cry. It wasn't Lara's voice. It was Brayden. I froze, halfway in the hole, my heart stopping in my chest. I heard Lara scream his name, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. My choice, my diversion. He hadn't run. He'd been hit. My selfish act had just cost him everything. The cold certainty I had felt just moments before shattered, replaced by a wave of nausea and horror. I thought I was going to be sick. I was safe. I was hidden. And Brayden was bleeding out in the rain because of me. I had used him just as he had planned to use me as a key. There was no difference between us anymore. I was alone in the dark, and the only thing I had saved was my own skin. The weight of it was crushing me. The darkness in the hole was absolute. It smelled of wet earth and decay, a cold, clammy tomb I had chosen for myself. But I couldn't escape the sounds.
Brayden's cry echoed in my skull, sharp and ragged. It was followed by Lara's scream, a raw, tearing sound that seemed to go on forever. My diversion, my plan. It had worked perfectly. I had made them the target. I pressed my back against the cold, curving wall of the pipe, my legs dangling in the blackness. My body was safe, untouched, but my soul felt like it had been ripped open. My grandmother's voice was in my head again, her words about strength, but they sounded different now, curdled and mocking. Your strength is your own. I had held on to that, used it as a shield, used it as a reason. But what was the point of strength if it just made you a monster in a different way? The justifications I had built in my mind, the neat little walls of anger and resentment, they all came crashing down. He was going to leave me anyway. They deserved it. Did they? Did Brayden deserve a bullet in his back because he was a cruel, stupid teenage boy? Did Lara deserve to watch him die? My rage had been so righteous, so clean, but this, the reality of it, was just ugly and sick. I had wanted them to feel pain. I had wanted them to understand what it felt like to be helpless. And now they did. And all I felt was a hollow, echoing horror. I wasn't any better than them. In the end, I was just as cruel. I had to see. I couldn't stay in the dark, just listening. Slowly, carefully, I raised my head, my eyes clearing the lip of the concrete opening. The world outside was a watercolor painting bleeding in the raining. The courtyard was a wash of green and gray and red. There was a dark patch spreading on the back of Brayden's jacket. He was on his stomach, trying to push himself up, but his arms were shaking. Lara was a few feet away from him. She wasn't running for the gate like I had told her to. She hadn't followed the plan. Their plan? Our plan? My plan? She was on her hands and knees, frozen, staring at Brayden. Her face, which I had only ever seen composed in a perfect mask of makeup and condescension, was completely naked with terror. Then Leo took a step out from the doorway. He was reloading. The sound of the new magazine clicking into place was sharp and clear, a sound of finality. He started walking toward them, not rushing, just a slow, deliberate stroll, like he was walking to his next class. He was enjoying it. "Run!" Brayden choked out, his voice a wet, gurgling sound. He was talking to Lara. He collapsed back onto the grass. "Lara, run!" She didn't move. She just shook her head, her wet hair clinging to her face. She started to crawl, not away, toward him. I watched, my breath caught in my chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be selfish. She was supposed to abandon him, just like they were going to abandon me. That was the rule. The strong leave the weak. The popular discard the inconvenient. But she was crawling toward the weakest person in the courtyard, the one with a target on his back. She reached him, her trembling hand landing on his shoulder. "Brayden," she sobbed. "No, no, no." The sight of it broke me. Everything I thought I knew about them, about myself, it all shattered. In the moment of truth, the selfish cheerleader was being brave, and I, the righteous victim, was hiding in a hole in the ground. I had made my choice based on who they were yesterday, but who they were in this exact moment was something different. And who I was a coward. The face of my dad flashed in my mind, waiting outside the school gates. If I got out of this, if I survived by letting them die, how could I ever look at him again? How could I tell him the story of what I did? How could I live with the person I had become in this cold, dark hole? The answer was simple. I couldn't. Staying here wasn't survival. It was a different kind of death. It was the death of Kezia, the girl who loved her grandmother's stories and wanted to get an A in calculus. The girl who believed, deep down, that people could be better. Hiding in this drain meant letting that girl die forever. A new feeling, cold and sharp, cut through the nausea and the shame. It was determination. It wasn't about saving them anymore. It wasn't about forgiveness or trying to be a hero. It was about refusing to be the villain. It was about rewriting the last few minutes of my life. It was a choice. Hide in shame or stand in truth. Be the victim or be the victor. I wouldn't let Leo or Brayden or Lara be the ones who decided who I was. I would decide. My eyes scanned the ground near the opening. The access plate I had pulled up wasn't for a storm drain. I had known that. I remembered seeing the schematics of the school's new irrigation system last year when they were doing construction. This small panel, right here, was the manual override for the courtyard sprinklers. A hidden skill, a piece of useless information I had filed away. Until now. Leo was 10 yards away from them now. He was raising the rifle again.
I didn't have time to think. I acted. With a grunt, I hauled myself up and out of the hole. The cold rain hit my face, a shocking, clean feeling. I scrambled over to the access plate and looked at the controls inside. It was a simple setup: a red lever, a pressure gauge, a wheel valve. It wasn't meant to be complicated. Lara looked up and saw me. Her eyes widened, a mixture of shock and confusion. For a second, she looked like she was about to scream my name. I put a finger to my lips, a silent, desperate plea. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. The red lever. It had to be the lever. I grabbed it with both hands and pulled. For a second, nothing happened. My heart sank. Had I been wrong? Was it all for nothing? Then, with a deep groan from the pipes below, it happened. Every sprinkler head in the courtyard erupted at once, not with a gentle spray, but with a high-pressure blast of cold, shocking water. The noise was a sudden, violent hiss that filled the air. Arcs of water crisscrossed the lawn, turning the entire courtyard into a chaotic, blinding mess. Leo swore, stumbling back as a jet of water hit him square in the chest. He shielded his eyes, trying to see through the sudden downpour. The element of surprise was mine. He was disoriented, confused. This wasn't part of his plan. "Now!" I screamed, my voice cutting through the hiss of the water. "Move him to the wall!" My shout seemed to break Lara out of her trance. She grabbed Brayden under his arms and started to pull. It was a clumsy, desperate effort. He was heavy, a dead weight, and she was slipping in the mud. I ran. I didn't think about the bullets. I didn't think about Leo. I just ran across the churning, soaked grass toward them. I grabbed Brayden's other side, hooking my arms under his. "On 3, I yelled at Lara over the sound of the sprinklers. 1, 2, 3, pull! We pulled together, a surge of adrenaline giving us strength we didn't know we had. We dragged him backward through the mud and the water, away from the center of the courtyard, back toward the partial cover of the low concrete wall. He was groaning, his eyes half closed. "Kezia?" he mumbled, his voice faint. "What?" "Don't talk," I grunted, my muscles screaming in protest. We got him behind the wall, collapsing next to him in the mud. The sprinklers were still going full blast, a curtain of water between us and Leo, distorting his shape, making him a blurry figure in the manufactured storm. He fired a shot, but it went wide, the bullet thudding into the brick wall of the science building far to our left. He couldn't get a clear aim. It was working. My impossible choice had bought us a few impossible seconds. We were out of the drain, but we were still trapped. A wounded animal and his 2 unlikely saviors, with the hunter circling just beyond the water. But we were together, and for the first time since the shooting started, I wasn't just thinking about how to save myself. I was thinking about how to save us all. The hiss of the sprinklers died as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a dripping, ringing silence. For a moment, the only sound was the rain and the water running in streams across the concrete. Leo was on the ground, tackled by a wave of police officers who seemed to appear out of nowhere. It was over. The shooting was over. But as paramedics swarmed the courtyard, strapping Brayden to a board, putting a blanket around Lara's shaking shoulders, I knew that for us, it was just the beginning of something else. 4 hours later, I was sitting on a hard plastic chair in a hospital waiting room that smelled like bleach and fear. My dad was beside me, his hand on my knee, a silent, heavy pressure that was the only thing keeping me from floating away. My clothes were still damp, and I had a scratch on my cheek from the concrete wall. Across the room, Lara was with her parents. Her mother, a woman with a perfectly arranged face, was stroking her hair, while her father paced back and forth, talking quietly but angrily on his phone. Brayden's parents were there too, huddled together, their faces gray with worry. Brayden is in surgery. The bullet had gone through his shoulder. He was going to live. No one looked at me. No one spoke to me, except my dad. It was like a force field was around them, the popular, worried families, and I was on the outside, a stranger who had accidentally wandered into their private tragedy. They were already building their story. I could hear snippets of it from the father's phone call. My son, a hero, stood between the shooter and the other kids, took a bullet for them.
I felt a cold, familiar anger begin to uncoil in my stomach. A hero? Brayden had been paralyzed by guilt and fear. He had tried to give himself up. Lara, the girl he was supposedly protecting, had been the one crawling through the mud to his side. And me? I was the one who turned on the sprinklers.
I was the one who ran into the open to help drag him to safety. But in their story, I could already feel myself being erased. I was becoming invisible again. A man in a plain suit walked into the waiting room. He had tired eyes and a notepad. "Detective Miller," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I need to get a preliminary statement from the students who are in the courtyard. Lara, can I start with you?" Lara's mother nodded, giving her a gentle push forward. Lara sat down in the chair across from the detective, her mother standing protectively behind her. She told her story in a soft, broken voice. She talked about being trapped in the library, about their terrifying escape. She talked about the courtyard. "Brayden, he was trying to get us to the gate," she said, a tear rolling perfectly down her cheek. "He was yelling at us to run, telling us he would create a distraction. The shooter came out, and Brayden, he pushed me down, behind the wall. He stood up to him, and he got shot." I stared at her. I couldn't breathe. It was a lie, a complete, perfect lie, crafted to make Brayden a martyr and her the girl he died to save. It was the story everyone wanted to hear. The brave football captain, the terrified girlfriend. It was simple. It was clean. It left no room for the ugly, complicated truth. The detective wrote it all down, his expression sympathetic. He nodded. "Thank you, Lara. That's very helpful." He then looked over at me. His gaze was different, less sympathetic, more procedural. "And you're Kezia, correct? Can you confirm Lara's account?" This was it. The moment. My dad squeezed my knee, a silent message of support. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady, and sat in the chair Lara had just left. It was still warm. The detective looked at me, his pen poised over his notepad, waiting for a simple yes, waiting for me to play my part. The quiet black girl, the grateful survivor, the footnote in Brayden Miller's heroic story. I looked from the detective's tired face to Lara, who was refusing to meet my eyes. I saw her mother give me a sharp, warning look. I looked at Brayden's parents, their faces full of pain and pride for their heroic son. They were all waiting for me to validate their story, to make it true. The girl I was yesterday would have nodded. She would have said yes. She would have taken the easy path, the one that caused no trouble, the one that let her disappear back into the background. But I wasn't that girl anymore. That girl had died in a hole in the ground while Brayden bled in the rain. "No," I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the hushed waiting room like a stone through glass. Lara's head snapped up. Her mother took a step forward. "My daughter is in shock," she said to the detective. "This one, she's probably just confused." The detective held up a hand to quiet her, but his eyes never left mine. "Tell me what you remember, Kezia," he said. And so I did. I told him everything. I didn't start in the courtyard. I started weeks ago in English class. I told him about the group project on the Tempest. I told him about Caliban. I told him about the story of my grandmother and her mango tree and the monkey she argued with. I told him how I had shared that story, a piece of myself, with Brayden and Lara. And the next day, I said, my voice steady, my eyes locked on Lara, I heard Brayden in the hallway with his friends. He was imitating my grandmother's accent. He was hopping around, scratching himself, pretending to be a monkey. And Lara was laughing. She was telling him to do it again. Lara's face went pale. Her mother opened her mouth to object, but the detective silenced her with a look. He was leaning forward now, his pen still. He was just listening. Leo Jensen, the shooter, he wasn't just some random crazy kid, I continued.
He was a boy they bullied every day. I saw it. Everyone saw it. They called him a freak. They knocked his books out of his hands. They made his life miserable. That's why their names were at the top of his list. What list? The detective asked, his voice sharp. In the storage closet, I explained, the one he was using as a base. We found it. We found his map. He had a list of names. Brayden and Lara were numbers 1 and 2. He was hunting them specifically. I saw Brayden's father flinch. The idea of his son being a target for a reason, not just a random victim, was a crack in the heroic narrative. We were in the biology lab, waiting to run across the courtyard, I said, and now my voice was cold and clear as ice, and I overheard them talking, Brayden and Lara. They had a plan. I paused, and I made myself look directly at Lara. I wanted her to hear it. I wanted her to know that I knew. Brayden told her to just follow my lead, to let me think I was in charge, he said, and I remember his exact words. She's just the key.
The second we're on the other side of that gate, we're gone. We run. We don't look back. He was planning on using me to escape and then abandoning me. A choked sound came from Lara's throat. Her mother's face was a mask of fury. This is slander. She's making this up. So when we were in the courtyard, I went on, ignoring her, my focus entirely on the detective, and Brayden was shot, it wasn't because he was being a hero. He was panicking. He got shot because we were all just trying to save ourselves. He didn't push anyone out of the way. He was hit, and he went down. Lara didn't run for the gate. She went to him, and I was the one who turned on the sprinklers to create a diversion so we could drag him to safety. I finally stopped. The silence in the room was absolute. It was heavy, suffocating. I had taken their clean, simple story, and I had ripped it to shreds, leaving the ugly, bloody truth on the floor for everyone to see. The detective just stared at me for a long moment. Then he started writing. He wrote for a full minute, not speaking. When he looked up, his expression had changed completely. The professional sympathy was gone. In its place was a focused, sharp intensity. He wasn't just taking a statement from a traumatized victim anymore. He was talking to his star witness. He turned his chair slightly, angling it away from Lara and her parents, creating a small, private space for just the two of us. "Tell me more about this storage closet," he said. "Tell me everything you saw on that map." I had done it. I had used my voice. I had told the truth, not just my truth, but the whole truth, and they had to listen. As I started to describe the red circles on the map and the angry words in Leo's notebook, I saw Lara slump in her chair, her face in her hands. Her mother stood behind her, defeated, her perfect composure finally cracking. Brayden's parents just looked lost, their son's heroism dissolving into something much more complicated and human. I was no longer a footnote. I was the author, and this was my story to tell. My conversation with the detective changed the air in that waiting room. It sucked all the oxygen out of their perfect story. When I was done, Lara's mother looked at me with pure hatred, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes, too. The fear of a narrative spinning out of control. Brayden's father just sank into his chair, his face buried in his hands. The weight of his son's actions, the real ones, seemed to finally land on him. My dad helped me up from the chair. He didn't say anything. He just put his arm around my shoulders and held me close. His embrace was the only truth I needed in that moment. It was my anchor. The detective gave me a small, respectful nod before turning to his partner. He was no longer investigating a simple tragedy. He was untangling a web of cruelty that had led to it. The next few weeks were a blur of police statements, news reports, and the quiet, heavy atmosphere at school. Northgate High became a national story for a day or two. At first, the headlines were simple: student hero shot protecting classmates. But my testimony was a rock thrown into that smooth pond. The story started to change.
Anonymous students started talking to reporters, confirming the bullying Leo had endured. They talked about Brayden's clique and the way they ruled the halls. My name was kept out of the papers, but the truth wasn't. The story of the monkey and the mango tree was never printed, but the narrative of Brayden as a flawless hero was dead. I saw Lara a week after we returned to school. She was by her locker, but her usual crowd of friends was gone. They kept their distance, whispering among themselves. She looked smaller. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. Our eyes met for a second across the crowded hallway. There was no anger in her look, no defiance, just a hollow, empty shame. She looked away first. We never spoke again. Brayden came back to school a month later, his arm in a sling, a permanent scar peeking out from his collar. He wasn't the king anymore. He walked the halls with his head down. People didn't flock to him. They moved around him, leaving a small, empty space. He had survived the shooting, but the boy everyone wanted to be was gone. One afternoon, he waited for me by my locker. My heart started to beat a little faster, a mix of old fear and new resolve. "Kazia," he said, his voice quiet, raspy. I just looked at him, my hand resting on my calculus textbook. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. "I just wanted to say," he started, then stopped. He looked at the floor. "The sprinklers. You saved my life. After what I was going to do, what I said." He finally looked up at me, and his eyes were full of a pain that had nothing to do with the bullet he took. "I'm sorry. For everything." The girl I used to be would have accepted his apology. She would have said, "It's okay," just to make the moment less awkward, to smooth things over. She would have done it because she was desperate for a scrap of acceptance. But I wasn't her. I wasn't an actor in his story of redemption. My peace didn't require his apology. My healing wasn't his to give. I just nodded once, a small, final gesture. Then I closed my locker, turned, and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the hallway. I didn't look back. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I just felt free. As for Leo, he pled guilty. His lawyers talked about severe bullying and mental health issues. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice, I guess. But it didn't feel like a victory. It just felt like a tragedy that had finally reached its last sad chapter. The real justice, for me, wasn't what happened in the courtroom. It was what happened inside me. 6 months later, the sun was streaming through my bedroom window. My dad was helping me pack boxes. Not a lot of them. Just my books, some clothes, and a framed picture of my grandmother standing under her mango tree, a wide, beautiful smile on her face. "You sure you don't want this one?" my dad asked, holding up my heavy calculus textbook. "Could be good for a doorstop in the dorm." I laughed, a real easy laugh. "I think I'm done with calculus for a while, Dad." He put the book aside and handed me a thick envelope from the desk. It was my acceptance letter to the university, the one I had wanted to go to since I was a little girl. My scholarship essay had been about my grandmother, about the stories she told and the strength it takes to tell your own. "She would be so proud of you, you know," my dad said, his voice thick with emotion. "I know," I said, tracing the university's logo with my finger. "I think she'd say, 'See, I told you. You have a voice bigger than any monkey's foolishness.'" We both smiled at that. For a long time, I was afraid of being the angry black girl. I thought it was a trap, a label they would use to dismiss me. But I learned something in that courtyard, covered in mud and fear. Anger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes, anger is just a sign that you know you deserve better. It's a fire that can burn away the lies and leave you with the truth. My voice isn't something to be hidden. It's my armor, it's my strength, it's my own. And I will never, ever let anyone take it from me again. The future felt like an open door. Not one I needed a key for, but one I could just walk right through on my own 2 feet. I was ready. I hope you're all in a safe, comfortable place right now. I hope my story, as hard as it was to tell, meant something to you. It's a reminder, I think, that the quietest people often have the most to say, and that the lines people draw between us are only as real as we let them be. The world can change in an instant, and when it does, all that matters is who you are when everything else is stripped away. Thank you for being here with me, for listening. If you felt a connection to this story, if it made you think, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you know, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. What part of the story hit you the hardest? Was there a moment where you would have made a different choice? Let's talk about it. Your stories and your perspectives are just as important as mine. I'll be back soon with another story. This next one is about a promise made between two brothers on a sinking ship, and the secret one of them had to keep for 50 years. It's a story about love, sacrifice, and the weight of a lie. You won't want to miss it. Until then, be kind to each other, and don't ever be afraid to use your voice.